I've been a fan of all of your work for a really long time, and you've all had really rich careers even to this point. So it's amazing to me you're all first-time nominees here. I think we should kind of start with that fact. And Deirdre, I'm going to go to you first. I'm curious, given the kind of remarkable career you've had in TV over so many years, what this nomination means to you.
Um, 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 um. It's a good question. I mean, um, it means a lot to me. That it's partly because of these ladies that it just if this was all that happened, that I got to be on this Zoom meeting looking at the three of you after getting to watch your remarkable work. And I'm pumping your ass full of sunshine. This is like this is this is really true. I feel like I was transformed by each of you in different ways for the rest of my life. So that alone is completely amazing, that this year I could get to be in a situation where I would get to probably like even maybe shake your hands at some point. Um, and maybe then hug and then maybe look at each other across a crowded room and go like, what, we're going to get to do all those things together. So that's really incredible to me that I'll get to do it with these people that I am so excited to meet. Um, I gotta say, TV is often very arduous.
Mhm.
It can feel very like I am struggling greatly to feel like a real person and a real actor in a situation where it's not my home is theater, so I'm used to already managing a lot of stuff, but I'm used to managing that stuff, that the stuff where there's just this like beast that is an
Mhm.
audience and beast that is this task that you have to do every time. But this other beast, which is a room full of 150 people who are preoccupied with something quite else than what you are doing, and whose time you don't want to waste, and who you really want to be professional around, and all those quotes of, you know, yeah, those things, on top of trying to find that sweet spot where you're inspired and where you're finding things that you never expected to have happen in that room at that moment. It's very unusual. And somehow, with the Penguin, with that particular group of actors and that particular crew and that situation, and the kind of outside in tasks that went with it, that had to do with the disease I had and the dialect I had and the world that had already been created that I had to find a way to fit into, all added up to when I actually was on the set. In some ways I was so overwhelmed, but also in other ways I was just blessed with those partners. um it was kind of like falling off a log in some ways. I'm not gonna say it was easy, but the homework was the scariest, hardest, most grueling part, in a funny way. So my experience was, but I didn't necessarily expect to feel that way watching it. I thought, yeah, and then it's going to have all of this like creepy music playing, and it's going to be cut together to be really dramatic, and it's not going to have this lived in feeling that we've this lightning in a bottle that we've somehow caught in the room. And so I resigned to that. Maybe that's the thing where you've been around for a long time. So I probably won't like it, but that's okay. I'm here to have a good time. I also gotta say, in all honesty, I really did go into that job going, if I don't love doing this, I don't have to do this anymore. I meant it. I really meant it. I felt like I don't, I've so often not liked it that much. So I went in very, very like viciously clear that if I didn't like this, you guys, adios. And I loved it. So, you know, I was fooled. I was tricked. Um, that's kind of an answer.
That's a
So
beautiful
in the
answer.
face of all of that, to have this happen on top of it, because I was ready to not like it when I saw it. That would have been cool. To have nothing happen, that would have been cool. I still felt rejuvenated and revived by the pleasure of that work. So
Lovely. Christine, I wonder if you can relate to the substance of that at all. You've been a mainstay in British TV for a long time, and here comes a show unlike anything I think any of us have ever seen. Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, adolescence was, I think, because I did my first acting job 34 years ago when I was 14. And I suppose how I felt then, I always commit any job I've done since to that feeling. And I've never found that as much work that I've done over the years. I've never felt like the way I felt on Adolescence, to be
Wow.
part of Adolescence. It was just such a wonderful experience. It was like on another level of synchronicity between cast and crew, and it's just such an honor to be a part of it. And even though it was heartbreaking at times to the storyline, it was just an absolute joy of a shoot and a wonderful way to work, and to get to work on such brilliant scripts written by Steve and Jack, but to get to work with such great actors and such a great crew. I just loved every minute of it. It was such a wonderful experience, like a true gift. And to work that way as an actor as well was just so freeing. So yeah, I mean, I feel really honored to be a part of Adolescence.
Hmm. Erin, I saw you nodding along there.
Yeah, it's so funny because obviously, like, I was just in this like one little bubble of an episode, so I never really and we shot it first, so I never really crossed paths with anyone else, but it was the same experience, which is so lovely to like hear back because you're like, it just reaffirms and brings back all those gorgeous memories of like, it just felt like this little tiny nugget of like truth, and we were like all so excited to be there and tell that story, but like you don't ever have any idea if something's gonna take off, and I don't think you should because it is not for us, but it was such a lovely experience to have that feeling of everyone just kind of in this like weird womb in a way, and to have it received is like, yeah, still I don't think I still fully understand what that show did, which is, yeah, an absolute blessing, as Christine said.
Hmm. Jenny, I know you've talked about Dying for Sex representing the kind of work you've long wanted to do. So I'll kind of throw the same question to you, putting this nomination, this moment in the context of getting to this moment as an actor.
Yeah. There isn't a moment of my life that I can remember where I didn't want to be an actor. And I don't know why. I think, like um I've just always wanted it. And I haven't thought a lot about anything being like the prize except for getting to do the job where I can take the energy that I have in myself and do the most with what that resource is. And especially as a kid, sometimes that extra energy and intensity is not seen as a resource, but something that really can exclude you from what makes life easier for people or your teachers or whatever. And maybe there was something that, like, the second I saw people performing, like I remember seeing Ann Miller in Easter Parade, like with Fred Astaire, just like
Hmm.
twirling around and just moving her legs so fast and being like, her legs are like my mind or something. Like I want to be there. I want to do that. Um, and when Dying for Sex came along, and I've talked about this, but my agents had, who I like love so much, and have been watching me since I started performing in my early 20s, like doing stand up and weird one woman shows in New York. They were like, you can expect more for yourself. You should go for it. And I was trying to wait for something that felt like I could do the most possible, because now in my early 40s, it feels like I finally can. Like I actually understand what people are saying to me and what my emotions are there for, and whatever. And so I felt like waiting and pledging to be patient, but then getting this job um, was a real doorway for me, and being able to return to work every day and work with Michelle Williams and all of the brilliant people I worked with, I will say I was like, I think this is what I've been asking for forever. Kind of like what Christine said in that, like, I haven't felt like this before, and I've had the pleasure of many wonderful feelings, and I love performing, but I never felt like I was getting like exactly what I was ordering from, the cosmos. I'm like, oh, I finally got my meal and it has everything and I'm starving. I'm so hungry. And so I don't quite know what to do about this moment. It's like I just I want to work again and have a job that feels like that. And so like I tend to be like, hopefully this means that I'm allowed back in and I can go again because that's what I want. And I feel really glad about it. And I'm just kind of trying to like not get really anxious, I guess.
Hmm. I like Deirdre laughing there a little bit.
Oh, it was about something else.
One of the really nice things about this moment, and I think award season in general, is the chance to really appreciate each other's work. I think you all individually were praising each other's shows before we started recording. So I'm just curious what that part of this whole cycle has meant to you, especially given what clearly these particular roles meant to each of you. Just the chance to take in each other's work and maybe feel some inspiration. Deirdre, have you found that?
I mean, oh geez. I have to say that Adolescence, top to bottom, I felt like my whole sense of what is possible making art, certainly making television, it is altered, deeply, deeply altered from the first 5 minutes of it. I sat up and went, what the hell is going on? Yeah, this is changing everything about what people can make. And I feel like I have had some sense of there being a diminishing, of there being a, oh, we went through the strike, we went through these things, we all have to resign ourselves to a certain kind of lowering expectations about what's possible. Everyone's brains are dead from the internet. That there are just so many elements that we just have to resign ourselves to try to find your happiness where you can. But those big seismic shifts in what art can be and what it can do, and what you can do if someone gives you a chunk of money and some time. Got shifted again in a way that it gets shifted very, very not that often. But I mean, I don't mean to be all pretentious about it, but I did feel like it was that big a deal. I also was just loving it and terrified by it and overwhelmed by it, top to bottom. So I felt, and I also kept I kept trying to understand not literally how it was being made, but what the experience of it must have been like. So often you can sort of go, oh, there's a person, surviving a thing that I understand what it must have felt like. This was, I don't even understand what the bottom line was of what the sense of what it was like to do you guys' first rehearsal, or the take that finally got used, or that. I'm just so curious about every step of that, because it was so layered. Like every second of it, you felt like all the 200 things that are going on with real humans in real situations was what I was getting to watch. And that's so rare. How did you guys get to that, where there was that feeling of something so, yeah. So I was dying of curiosity about it, and also thrilled that it was happening at this moment when I think so many people are kind of losing hope about what's possible, what you can make things about, how things are, what the audience wants, all those questions. Like, no, that all those questions are ridiculous. You can make that. And then Jenny, I'm just constantly going, how did she find that? How did she come up with that? I feel like I bought a house by being a sidekick best friend. I know sidekick best friend. and and I feel like there's a way that you just swallow the world around you, and the sidekick best friend becomes the soul of the thing. I've seen you do it more than one time, but it's so vivid in Dying for Sex. How and I know it's partly the writing and partly the utter generosity between you and Michelle, which is just so fucking fun to watch. Um, but there's also just a way that you are absolutely fearless, and that your lady is fearless, and you're not. Yeah, and I just those guys are so lucky to have found you to play that part, to just grab that thing with your teeth and yeah, I mean, things can go so many ways, and you just took that story of, I don't know, being challenged in such a particular way, and then the question of ladies and where we sit in each other's lives being so profoundly talked about, and so beautifully, delicately laid out, about that moment when you go, no, love, I understand our love for our spouses, and but there's this love, there's this friend love that is just as central and can sometimes have to take over your whole life, and that's not some sort of odd uh uh yeah, that's actually how the world works in this beautiful way that you were able to embody, that how your life was being opened up by taking care of her and taking on, but just also taking on the challenge of taking care of her. She did not make it easy. She's like, okay, you have to have no fear at all. Here we go. Just beautiful, and so funny. Maybe laugh so many times. But, I mean, but I could go on and on. I could go on and on about each of you, because I do feel like I was thrilled and baffled by all three of your performances in the best possible way. Just how did they do that? Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Jenny, how do you hear that?
Hear that? Well received. First of all, just thank you. That's such a um, it's such a lovely thing to hear. And again, like to be included in this group um, means a lot to me, because first of all, like I do seem to be focused on like really wanting to be a part of something really forever. Like that's also why acting is so attractive. Like you get to go to set and be with the people, and be in this kind of like apparatus slash organism that has to depend on all the little parts. And um I don't have much interest in being like out in front of the group or being the like conductor or the director, but I really really like being one of the people sort of like in the circus. And I think, for me watching these shows, one thing that I found really activating, like got me thinking, actually in the same way that when I read Dying for Sex, it got me thinking, both of these series um, have this thing of like, yeah, maybe you don't like, I was afraid to watch Adolescence because I have a young child, and I just was kind of like, hey man, I don't know how much I can take anymore in this world, especially in the United States where it's really scary to send your kids to school. I just was like, I'm not sure if I can. And all of my friends were like, oh my God, you have to see the show. The performances are incredible. They kept saying, it's not what you think. And I started to think like, well, what do I think? And then I started to realize like, wow, sometimes when things have like a very, they're working around violence, around assault, they're working around like some sort of a schism between parents and children. I have low expectations for how I'm going to be treated as an audience member. I'm scared. I don't want to just be freaked out. Like that's not enough for me. I am freaked out. I've been freaked out forever. I don't need to be more freaked out, you know? I want to see something more. And all of these people saying like there is more in both of the in both Adolescence and The Penguin is like, oh, okay, like there's more. And when I watched it, I also felt, as Deidre said, like I felt baffled about how low my expectations are sometimes for things that I'm afraid of.
Mhm.
And like that I just can't face it, and I can't take in anymore. And then watching this show that was so beautifully performed, and so various people coming in, people coming out. It's almost like you're kind of like at a train station, just like watching people come and go, and it's perfectly timed and orchestrated, and everything is beautiful and different. It raised my expectations for myself, for how I want to be in performance, for how I want to prepare. It raised my expectations for what genre can be. Like some of my favorite films are like Rosemary's Baby, not because I'm like super into Satanism, but because Cassavetes and Ruth Gordon and Mia Farrow are giving really grounded performance, and it's it doesn't break you, it opens you. And anyway, I felt really opened up by watching all of these performers here, and that is what I'm hoping for when I watch things. And it's obviously what I'm hoping in myself when I go to work, because I do feel fear, but I think the courage is around how it feels when you face it. And then to get even more courage from watching these series and these incredible women, that's what I'm hoping for in my peers, and to be considered a peer. So I
Mm.
hope that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. This point of raising expectations, I think, is a great one. And Christina, I wonder how you relate to that. You mentioned obviously never feeling like an actor the way you felt on this show, and you have to go to some really dark, intense places. Did just being a part of this project raise expectations for yourself for what acting can do? How did you experience that?
I think I felt like I learned so much,
Hmm.
like working on Adolescence. And I think what you're surrounded by as well, the actors that you're surrounded by, the director who helps guide you, the crew as well, that can help elevate you higher. And also, one of the most beautiful things I loved about working on Adolescence is that each take we did, it changed each time.
Hmm.
It's almost like doing a play on camera. But I just felt like I learned so much, and I want to carry on learning. But I do think massively what goes into play is what you're surrounded by as well. Not just the material you're working with, but what you're surrounded by, who
Hmm.
you're working with. And I think, with Adolescence, I will be forever grateful to work with people who help raise me higher and play the truth. And it was, I just felt like I learned so much on it. And it's like when I watched each performance of, of you all as actresses, that inspires me. Like each and every one of you are an inspiration to me, such wonderful actresses. And that's like a massive inspiration to me. I love that. When
Mm.
you watch a fellow actress perform and you think, wow, how did she do that? How did she do that? Wow. Or you think a scene's going to go one way and then it'll go a completely different way. Yeah.
In your case, Christine, you're working with the co-writer on the show as well, Stephen Graham. He's your primary co-star.
Yeah.
Did that inform the dynamic at all? You have such intimacy between your characters, and the whole show is such a high wire act as we're talking about that having him also be kind of the brains behind the script had to have been interesting.
Oh, it's such a gift. I mean, I mean, I've known C since we were born. So I think,
Wow.
yes, our mums were best friends growing up. And then we became friends growing up because our mums were best friends. So we've known each other since we were babies. So I think without a doubt, like we both grew up in an area called Kirby in Liverpool. So I think we already had that chemistry. And I've known Stephen's wife, Hannah, for years as well, beautiful Hannah. But I think because of our friendship, that without a doubt lent itself to Manda and Eddie's relationship. So we already had a knowingness of one another. And I think the fact that it was, Stephen's creation and Stephen co-wrote it with the brilliant Jack, is having him on the floor was just such a gift. And having Jack on the floor, because you could make these little changes, like the first week we're just playing with the script and, getting it on its feet. And I mean, that was just such a luxury. It was such a luxury.
Mm.
I'm going to throw in, like, as an American who had no idea what I was walking into, starting to watch it. And at the end of the first episode, I was like, how did they find the mom and dad? Because those are obviously real people. And so they must have just had a huge casting call there where they just tried to find her, because those aren't actors. I was like, then I started reading. I was like, Dee, no. Like, how did they find that mom and dad? But you fooled me. You got me.
That's a high compliment.
Like, I live on Mars. I actually live on Mars. So you got to have
a massive compliment.
I mean, I really didn't. I couldn't imagine actors doing it. I was like, those aren't actors.
In this show's case, that was the case for Owen Cooper, Erin, who was your main co-star in your episode. That's very different from acting with your best friend from childhood. So I'm curious, like, how kind of arcing that performance out over the course of this really, really tense episode-length scene worked with an actor who was new to this, playing, again, a really intense part, and you're sort of having to react along the way.
It was honestly, Owen is just incredible, and I'm so proud of him. But I'm so proud to watch this kind of snowball effect of people seeing what he could do. But honestly, I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think Owen rocking up and us doing our episode first in the whole of the shoot was, it just kind of allowed us to surrender and jump off the cliff and go, okay, let's just get to the bare bones of what it means to be an actor here, which is just being present with the other person and seeing what comes out. And it really reignited for me the importance of that, but also the joy in that. Because we've been saying, I'm exactly as Jenny said, I just love being part of a team. I grew up playing football. That's what I loved about that. And then this very quickly became the same kind of an outlet. So I was nervous going into it because I didn't know what where Owen's head would be at, given that this was his first role. I was a bit okay, what kind of mental state is he going to be coming to us with? But he was just so open. And I think there's a real truth in that, and we just allowed that to kind of penetrate the playing field almost, and it infected everything. So it very quickly just kind of, all the kind of fluff around a project, and all the nerves and the anxiety and any awareness of what this thing could be just melted away, and it really became so stark. And it was really, like I say, hopefully I'll get to take that forward, because you kind of forget it a little bit along the way, or there's lots of other little voices that sabotage you in a way. And this project for me has been a game changer, and I'm so determined to never let go of that. I guess a childlike wonder at what this is.
With the way that the episode unfolds, we have these moments where Owen's character is terrifying. He's small and scared. I'm curious to what Deirdre was saying earlier, like how it changed from take to take, how you rehearsed it, what kinds of things you discovered between the two of you after you'd read the script.
Well, it changed every time, and I can't tell you like specifically, but it felt exactly as Christine said. It was the epitome of doing a play put on screen. So that was really, really like exciting because you were like, from the minute that they call action, like it's ours. And there was this weird kind of like glee to that because you were like, I could take this with respect in whatever direction I feels organic. And that like opened up so many doorways. But yeah, on the take that they captured, it was the one that Owen yawned in. That like never happened before. But yeah, I honestly like there would be things where the cup would spill over. Like you can't ever orchestrate things like that. You just have to let it happen. And again, like it was a real lesson in just being present and seeing the gift in the shift, and not kind of trying to play a part in that, like just surrender and know that in a way it's greater than you. So like for whatever reason or other, it will just organically be its own thing. So I couldn't tell you the real specific changes from take to take, but there were like little moments like that jumped out in you and you were like, oh wow, so we're going down this route. And it was really, really special. And again, I'm just like, got to hold on to that because there is such truth in it, which I think we're always searching for. So yeah, it was a good kind of reminder of that.
It feels very fitting that each of your co-stars are also nominated because these performances are in many ways two-handers, each in their own way, and so informed by these dynamics with these other great actors. Deirdre, obviously you're working with Colin Farrell. You mentioned finding lightning in a bottle on the set, which for a show like The Penguin, as you were saying earlier, is no guarantee, right? It's a big production. There's a lot going on. Colin's doing something he's never done before. What does it feel like in the midst of this massive production when you do feel like you're finding that, especially with an actor going into such uncharted territory?
It was my biggest fear about it because I didn't know him at all, and I was intimidated by that situation, and things can go south so easily in those situations, where that person's under a lot of pressure and you don't know what they're like, and they could be, it happens where people in this game get a little damaged by having to carry so much, and they lose sight of how to help the other humans. And I don't know, I could go on, but in this particular situation, I was completely blessed, partly, I gotta say, by the fact that Colin was wearing the Oz head and bodysuit all the time. So I met him like one time for 10 minutes to have a little tea and be like, who are you? And we didn't have like dinner or anything. We just had this little meeting where we talked about, favorite movies and stuff like that, but not really, we didn't really get into it. And we'd never talked about our characters or the script or do that kind of analysis kind of thing. And so the first thing that happened was a camera test, and he showed up in his full regalia for the first time. And then I never really did see him without his full regalia again until these kinds of things started happening. So for him, he's like, Dee Dee, and he runs over to me and I'm like, who's this dude? Because I'm used to this other guy. But because it took 3 hours for him to do it, I always saw him in that. And as soon as there was something that happened, there was just that lucky thing that once in a while happens where we just saw each other and completely fell in love and were completely freed up and wanted to mess with each other and got what the other one was doing. I had been working, there were just these technical things like that dialect that he and his coach of a million years had found for him to do in the Batman. So that was a running train that I had to get on. And it's not a dialect we haven't all heard before, but it was pretty specific to him. There's like little things that were really specific to how they wanted to place it, because it's in outer space somewhere, in this parallel universe that is Gotham. So I had to learn very technically, how to be this guy's mom. So I had been doing all that homework. He's been doing all that homework, and we come together, and somehow there was just he was so open, surrendered so much to me. I only think of it kind of in retrospect, how much he just went, I'm giving this to you. I'm just giving up all the power to you, in a way that I didn't even quite realize was happening when it was happening. It was so fun. And we were immediately like, game on. And that could easily have not happened. And then I would have been kind of on my own, playing this lady. That was a very interesting thing to do, but I wouldn't have had the possibility of that kind of spontaneous improvisatory quality. I mean, we really didn't make up very many words, because every time we did, the dialect coach would run over and go like, it's not Woid, it's Woid. And so we'd be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to make anything up. That's too hard. But the that chemistry, you just can't. I maybe you can create it. Maybe you can rehearse and really create it. But I think sometimes you're lucky to just have it. And when you have it, then just thanks the gods. But he's also a kind person who takes the responsibility of being in his position very, very well. He just does it with a lot of grace. He just takes care of the people around him really well. So I was the recipient of all of that. And I think that without that, it could have been fun and interesting, but it wouldn't have been the same thing at all. Like that generosity that happens and it happened with Kristen too. We were just so excited to do that stuff together, and so fun. It was so fun to be challenged by each other. And so that sort of quality of being excited and challenged by the other actors doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's like you wish that that's what was happening, but something else is happening, and you find a way to make believable the situation that, is written down there. But in this case, we were lucky that way, and he was generous that way. So, but I've got to say, if he wasn't in that full regalia, I would have had to go through my whole, like, that's Colin Farrell. He's so beautiful. He's such a big movie star. I'm so scared. And I didn't have to go through that at all. I was just like, who's this guy, this great character actor from New York who got this job? Like, I get to be his mom. It was that. And then there was also just a quality of, we were very much simpatico in terms of how to sort of undermine what the normal version of the story might be, which would just be, in tiny touches, like, hey, let's do this lying on the bed. Hey, let's do this. We would just feel very like, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So we had that kind of all the way through. So I would just say, without that, which many times you're without that, not through anyone's fault. It could be through my fault sometimes. There's ways that I might be shut down or judgmental. I'm not saying it's anybody else's. It's just sometimes you're like both on fire together, and you can't make it happen. You just got to notice when it does happen and thank God for it. So yeah, I feel like, and I can't imagine having been able to feel so freed up and kind of, there was things in it that I was so scared of, and I felt so well taken care of. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is a big operatic production. Mm-hmm. And I think the crew, more and more and more as we went on, felt very invested in the small story, in the catching the performances, in taking care of the actors. There was an real sort of focus on that in a way that's very unusual in a production that big, where there's so many concerns, there's so many pieces of equipment, there's so many things getting blown up all the time, and for them to just kind of really love helping the actors was very unique. And I think that grew over just like the way the chemistry of that group worked over a year. We ended up doing it for a year because of the strike. We had like a 6-month break in the middle there.
Wow.
That kind of answers the question, but I mean, it was really lucky, and it wouldn't have been the same without that at all.
Yeah.
You kind of think you can pull it off by yourself, but And sometimes you do pull it off by yourself, but it's not the same thing.
Hmm. Jenny, did you have a, oh my God, it's Michelle Williams moment?
Of course. How
Yeah.
could you not? Yeah, I had met Michelle very briefly, like, I don't know, probably 7 years before this. We were in a movie together, but we weren't ever working
Yeah.
together. So I think I, like, met her at the junket thing. And that moment was a, oh my God, it's Michelle Williams moment. Like, just don't be weird. Don't, like, stare at her. And then for this show, I had to take the train from Providence, Rhode Island to New York because I live in Massachusetts most of the year. Here I am in my husband's childhood home, with bad internet. And I actually, like, on the train to do this chemistry read, I was, like, weirdly overly concerned with it's going to be shocking when you get into the room and you see her and you're going to have to perform with her just because I'm
Mhm.
such a big fan. I don't know anyone that isn't a Michelle Williams fan. And I psyched myself up for something that I, like, spiked it too high and then went down. So then when I was waiting to go into the chemistry read, I called one of my sisters and was saying, like, I'm gonna get in my own way. I'm gonna get in my own way. I'm gonna fuck this up. I'm too nervous. It means too much to me. She means too much to me. This role is all I've been waiting for. It's just going to be another situation of I get to the door and somehow I, like, fall backwards the wrong way, not through the door. And like, I didn't feel good. And then when I came into the room, there's Michelle, and she and I were weirdly wearing, like, the same outfit almost. And she looked so, um, not shy, but like, that she was just ready to connect. She was not
Mhm.
guarded at all. And she's so petite, but she has this, like, immense kind of, like, charge coming off of her, just so much power. And she seems so hopeful. And
Mhm.
because she came to me like that, I mean, I was like, there is Michelle Williams, and wow, she is brilliant and beautiful. But it was also like the realness about her is like, oh, there's a real actor who loves acting in very similar ways to how I love it. And she doesn't think I am anyone but a scene partner coming in, and, like, she's hoping it's gonna work. And it just felt so good. And I already admired her so much, but it really took that to the next level. And yeah, but I still feel that way when I see her.
Yeah,
There
It
I
she
do
makes
when
me
I
is.
sh
see Colin without his head. I'm like, put your head back on. It's too embarrassing.
That's funny. So obviously we are celebrating these incredible moments. And a few of you have noted some more challenging periods that got to this point. So I would love to sort of use this as a chance as we wrap to maybe reflect on what did keep you going as an actor when things were not as bright and shiny. Christine, you did mention you'd never felt like an actor felt like an actor the way you did on Adolescence. So I'm curious, what did keep you going as an actor when the work didn't feel as exciting or fulfilling?
I think I've always I've always tried to, no matter what the job is, it's all about, like, ultimately the character. So I've always tried to apply myself with, no matter what the project is, with putting the same amount of work into that, love, passion. But sometimes, it's if it's material that is not kissing your acting soul, it makes it a lot more difficult, doesn't it? And I think with Adolescence, because it was like we were all doing a dance and it was such a collaboration and it was such a team, that did that, like, as I said, help raise you higher. Like, we're all moving together. And that to me is I just felt like I'd learned so much as an actor, and also working that way as well. Working in the one shot, which before it's fucking terrifying. Like, your heart would be going, I would be terrified. Then once you hear action, you're off. And then you're allowed to be in the moment, which makes it more truthful, I think, that way of working. But at times where I've felt like completely disillusioned, or I'm never going to work again, or, you know, I mean, it wasn't long before Stephen rang me. I was not in a good place in terms of, I mean, I was thinking, I don't think I'm ever going to work again. So I've been through quite like a rough couple of years there as an actress. And I was feeling, I was having my little actress pity party, you know, where you're like, your soul's just like, I just need something. I need something to challenge me. And just like, it was like the flame had gone really low. And then Adolescence came along and it went, you know. I just try and, I think as I've got older in it, is that thing of like just going, it's day by day, what's for you won't pass you, you know. I think I've got a little bit better as I've got older with dealing with rejection and stuff, because I just think it's not my role. But I mean, before Adolescence, I was, my acting soul felt on the floor, to be honest. So when Stephen rang me and I was like, yes, he was like, I'll send you the script. I was like, yes. I mean, I was like, just walk past shot and I was doing anything in Adolescence, you know. So I do think, and you know, I believe in asking as well, and you know, it's all learning, isn't it? I think any of that made sense.
Erin, I'm curious how you connect to that as someone a little newer in her career than Christine, maybe, but who, you know, you mentioned these big lessons you wanted to take off of Adolescence for yourself. You've already been on a couple big projects like The Crown as well. How you've learned to navigate those peaks and valleys.
I think, for me, like it's, and I haven't had a chance to say this, but it's watching others so phenomenally do this stuff well that you're like, that when you can't do it yourself, for me, I'm like, okay, I'll find it. I'll get the buzz from outside of myself. And it's phenomenal performances that kind of fill up that tank. Like that's kind of how I've learned to kind of keep that spark going, is watching others and being like, there's no comparison about it. There's just like utter, like knocking at the door and being like, you inspire me, like I'm still here, like will someone let me in? And like that, it just feels like, when done well, like this job is such a generous act of being like, here's my massive vulnerability. And so to be on the receiving end of that, when you can't be the person giving, to be receiving is kind of my way of keeping that ball rolling. And so to come full circle and get my opportunity to say it, like genuinely, these performances from all of these women are 100% moments, like for me, of being like, this is why we do it. Like that's a human being ripping open their chest right there. And I just want to, if I can't do it, watch it. Like that's like, honestly, that's where I'm kind of like, if it comes to it and I never work again, there is something in just watching people do it so well. And so, that's kind of been my thing, where I'm like, okay, if the lows are just rolling on for too long, then you have to lock in to other people who are just smashing it. And
I think that's a lovely note to end on. Congratulations to you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to absolutely 100% find you all and get to tell you in person what I feel about you, honestly.
That me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Really look forward to that.